Today, we'll be taking a look at the drum bearing sleeve on this GE electric dryer. Be sure to visit ApplianceVideo.com, where you will find thousands of repair videos on the latest technology. And for a limited time, you can save big on an annual membership and take advantage of all of our premium benefits. ApplianceVideo.com. Do it right the first time. To begin your repair, you must first remove the console. Stop. Always be sure to disconnect the power to the appliance. It is also recommended to test the outlet for the proper voltage. You will need the following tools to complete this repair. Now first, we will have to work on the back of the unit. There is one plate that's held on here. Got a couple of 1/4-inch screws going around. You'll have to take these out. Next, let's just pry this back. Lift it up. We have one ground screw on the bottom that will need to be removed. Pull this off and set the plate aside. Next, we need to drop the console. To drop the console, we have two 1/4-inch screws, one on each side. And then we're gonna hit back. So use your palm, knock it back here, knock it back here, flip it forward. Now we have all the wiring. So what we'll need to do at this point is obviously remove the wiring. There's a lot of different types of strain relievers on some of these. You got one main Molex here. We'll have to press down, pull it apart. You press on this end here. You'll press the tab down inside to pull apart. Next, you're gonna have to take out all of this wiring. So we'll start with the relays. Now would be a really good time to take a picture of the board. If you haven't already done so, make sure you take a picture so you can see where each one of these go. Again, start prying them off. When you pull on these relays, make sure you put pressure on the actual relay while lifting up. We have the connector on the top here. This will also have to get pushed through. I use the tag puller, it's a little clip on the side, kind of pushes in, pushes down, and you can set your console aside. Now that we have the console set aside, we can start to remove our top. To remove your top, we have two circular guards here that have to be taken off. We'll start on the left side, it's held on by one 1/4-inch screw. Pull it off. Now inside we have one ground screw, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to move the wiring harnesses down inside the cavity. So as you can see, this one is still held on. Green ground screw on the chassis, take it out. Now we have separated the wiring harness. We can go ahead and push that one in, take off this piece here. Also held on by one 1/4-inch screw. You pull out. Just be careful. You can grab the wiring when you're pulling it out. We will undo the strain reliever here. Go ahead and gently put your harness back inside the cavity. Next, we have two screws, both Phillips, one on each side, that will have to be removed. grab all your stuff, set it aside, and we will move around to the front. Back at the front, let's just go ahead and open the door. We have 2 Phillips screws underneath that will need to be removed. Go ahead, set these aside. Try to push back on the top panel some. Lift up and set it aside. With the top panel set aside, next we're going to start to remove the front panel. We have a couple of screws that will need to be removed in the front here, all Phillips. Once we remove these, we will switch over to our 1/4 inch. Now, before you pull your front forward, make sure you remove the wiring harness. Just pinch it, pinch the end, pull it apart. We have 2 1/4 inch screws on the top. I recommend just holding your leg there when you take those off so that it doesn't spring down. Drop it forward. We will reach down, undo the wiring harnesses on the bottom. Once you undo the wiring harnesses, tip it down, start to lift it off the bottom. Lift up and set it aside. Now that we have the front panel removed, now we actually have the ability to remove our drum. Now, to remove your drum, first we will have to remove the belt. You'll leave it on the machine, but take it off the motor pulley and the idler. So reach in, grab the idler pulley, pull it back, let go of the belt, let your idler go back, and just go ahead and pull the belt past the idler pulley. Next, sometimes, because these edges are so close, I like to scratch on the sides of these. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull it out gently. Start to pull it out. Remove belt and all, and set the drum aside. Now that we have the drum taken out, we have clear access to our drum bearing sleeve. Now, the main reason why you'd be replacing this drum bearing sleeve is if it has wore down. Now, because it's made of a rubberish material, if it gets kind of stuck in there and stops turning, well, then it will end up wearing out this rubber because it'll keep going around metal. So if it is wore out or if it's missing, it will have to be replaced. Now, to take off the sleeve, you will have to lift it up off of the shaft here. When lifting it up, just kind of bring it back and forth and slide it up off the shaft. Make sure your O-ring on the top hasn't came off, and set it aside. When installing your new drum bearing sleeve, first just put it on here straight up and down, and you're going to want to wiggle your hands back and forth while applying pressure because it is rubber, it's kind of stiff and it has to go over this ledge here. Slide it on. Now we can reinstall our drum. When reinstalling your drum, we'll lift up on the belt just to kind of hold it in place while we're guiding it in the dryer cavity. Make sure you do not pinch any wiring. So slide this back. When you're going to the back, you want to lift up, have it where the top of the drum looks like it's maybe about 1 inch away from the top here, and then slide it into place. There's a bearing on the back that has to go into a hole. So when you get it where you think it's in place, give it a turn, make sure there's no scraping. We'll make sure the belt is lined up. There we go. Now it's set into place. So I actually go back about 1 inch away from the sides here is where it's going to rest in place. Now give it a good turn. Must have just had the very tip of it in there. We'll reach underneath, reattach the belt. So we will pull back on our idler. Wrap the belt around here. Pull back on the idler, bring down the belt. The rib side of the belt goes around the motor shaft. The flat spot goes out. We will let the idler go so it causes tension on the belt. Now we can reinstall the front panel. When reinstalling your front panel, we will line up the bottom and drop it in place. You will have to give it some pressure on the top to push it down. We will reinstall our wiring harnesses. Next, when you're bringing the front in, what you'll want to do is lift up on the drum, slide the front bearing in it, and start to line up the sides in place. Push it in place. Reinstall your front holding screws. We'll reinstall the top wiring harness. Open the door, reinstall the internal screws. Now we can reinstall the top. When reinstalling your top, first we're going to bring it in at an angle. Then we're going to start pushing these wiring harnesses inside. First wiring harness in, I'll slide the pink one in. Just go ahead and bring it back. Slide back a little bit and pull forward, so kind of lock it in place. You shouldn't be able to just lift it straight up. Let's go ahead and reinstall the Phillips screws in the front. What I like to do with these is I like to put them in by hand first, because sometimes you have two holes to go through here, here, and then meet up to a hole at the top. Doesn't want to always line up, so put it in by hand before you start drilling. Go ahead and close the door, and let's return to the back. Now that we're at the back of the unit again, let's just go ahead and set everything we'll need right on top. Pull out your harness, slide it into the strain reliever, and twist it back into place. We will reinstall the bottom Molex here. Now, if you remember correctly, we had a ground strap that was screwed in. Now you have one main ground strap here. One is longer than the other. There's a square end and there's a circular end. The circular end is the one that gets reinstalled inside the chassis. So what we'll do, just pop that screw in it, hold on to the bit, bring in, drill it down. Next, we need to reinstall the covers here. They have a bent down kind of tooth on each end that will go into the slotted area on the hole here. So bring it in place, slide it back. On this one, that ground strap wants to push against it a little bit. Just hold it in place. Reinstall your screw. Let's go ahead and do the one on this side. It's kind of hard to see the tooth end on the other, but if you lift the wiring harness up, you'll see it. Slide it back in place, and once again reinstall the holding screw. And finally, we have the 2 screws that are on the back. Now these Phillips screws sometimes can be difficult to find where they need to go, so I recommend bringing them in by hand, finding where they thread in, and just give it a twist. Same on the other side. If you go in at an angle, the screw will fall too far down, so try to go down as straight as you can. Screw them back in. Make sure your wiring looks okay. Now we can reinstall the console. When installing your console, first we'll lay it in place. Next, of course, you're going to reinstall all your wiring, starting with the Wi-Fi plug-in piece at the top. Slide it in, pop it out, clip it in place. Next, just go through and start to reinstall all your wiring. For the actual relays, I'm going to refer back to the picture that I took earlier to see which one gets plugged in where. So red wire on the end. Followed by the orange wire. Followed by the blue wire. Now we will pull the console back into place. These little teeth here will go into the slotted areas on the top of the dryer. Make sure you drop it down. You'll want to move it back just a tad bit. It'll drop down in place. Give it a little nudge to kind of lock it in. Reinstall our 2 1/4-inch screws. We'll reinstall the ground strap, get it into place. The strap itself had 1 small washer, as well as the green screw. Drop it into place. See which side it goes on. This one is going to be this side. Start it by hand, tighten it up. Let the ground go in. We will drop in the edges into the slotted area provided on the console. Reinstall the 1/4-inch screws around the perimeter. And this will complete your repair. Thank you for watching another quality video from ApplianceVideo.com. If you found this video helpful, make sure you click the like and subscribe to our channel.